When the media announced the Paulson-Bernanke plan to bail out Wall Street by giving the Treasury $700 billion and carte blanche to do whatever they want with it, people got angry.
You're talking about a bailout for like some of the wealthiest banks in the world, but yet we can't seem to help our own citizens who are having foreclosure crises.
No deal for Wall Street! No deal for Main Street! Main first! Main Street first! Main Street first!
But if people are upset over this proposed $700 billion plan, why are they not equally upset by the $188 billion per day that was actually created by the Federal Reserve last week alone to help prop up the failing investment banks? Or the $630 billion the Fed pledged to inject into the system as soon as the bailout was rejected? The fact is that in the last week alone, more than $1.5 trillion have been made available in sweetheart loans to Wall Street by the Federal Reserve, America's central bank. The name Federal Reserve conjures a reassuring image of a federally operated bank lending out its physical reserves. But there are just two problems with that perception.
Oh, absolutely. The Federal Reserve is neither federal and has doubtful reserves.
What is little understood, even by Congress, is that when the Fed makes these loans, it is not lending out actual money from its physical reserves. It is in fact using its bank charter to create money out of thin air. The problem with this system is that when money is created out of nothing, it increases the money supply without any corresponding increase in the economy. More paper chasing the same amount of goods means each dollar is worth less. This is inflation. The effect is the exact same as if the Federal Reserve went into your bank account and took a percentage of your savings. Ron Paul explains.
But I maintain really that inflation is a tax, and if the Federal Reserve and you as chairman have this authority to increase the money supply arbitrarily, you're probably the biggest taxer in the country. You're a bigger taxer than the Congress. Because, you know, they're talking now about a bailout package of $300 billion, and we'll have to raise the national debt to accommodate, to take care of the housing crisis. But you as a Federal Reserve chairman and the Federal Reserve Board and the system create hundreds of billions of dollars without even appropriation process.
Congressman, I couldn't agree with you more that inflation is a tax.
In other words, when the Federal Reserve injects this money onto Wall Street to prop up the investment banks, they are taxing you to bail out the bankers. And if people are upset about this $700 billion proposed bailout, why aren't they upset about the $2.3 trillion that the Pentagon blithely admits has gone missing from their coffers?
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. To understand how the Pentagon can lose track of trillions, consider the case of one military accountant who tried to find out what happened to a mere $300 million.
We know it's gone, but we don't know what they spent it on.
Oh, and the date of that announcement? September 10th. 2001. And one of the offices destroyed in the attack on the Pentagon the very next day? The Budget Analyst Office.
That plane had come directly under our section of the offices. The Army Budget Office, where 38 Army employees were killed, was directly beneath us.
But surely we can trust that this $2.3 trillion is insignificant, and that Rumsfeld was justified in brushing off questions from Congress about the matter.
Fiscal year 1999, 2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, 1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the number one reason why the government can't balance its checkbook.
I've forgotten what the second question was.
I think Ms. Jonas knows it.
Okay.
But if people aren't concerned about the hidden Federal Reserve inflation tax, or the trillions missing from the Pentagon, Perhaps this number will give them pause for thought. 1 quadrillion. That's the amount held globally in derivatives, exotic financial instruments that exploded in popularity in recent years. Derivatives are essentially financial fictions, imaginary wealth created by leveraging out real assets hundreds of times. This means that a small amount of assets can represent mind-boggling amounts of money on the balance books of most major investment banks. Now, the meltdown in mortgage-backed securities is threatening to start a chain reaction, burning its way through this derivative bubble, and creating a financial black hole. To put this in perspective, the combined value of all the assets on Earth is estimated to be $100 trillion. That means the entire Earth could be swallowed 10 times over by this financial black hole. So if we're upset over the $700 billion plan, why aren't we concerned about the trillions plundered by the Fed, the trillions missing from the Pentagon, or the quadrillion-dollar derivative bubble? Could it be because the controlled corporate media is trying to distract us from the real issues by telling us we've already won the fight?
That the bill would pass. Well, they knew, and everyone was very careful and very diligent to say that they knew this was going to be a tough vote. It's a tough vote to vote for because you're talking about potential price tag of $700 billion, no matter what party you stand with. But